The Game of Zen explores the often overlooked ways in which professional, personal, and spiritual growth are interrelated. We dive deep into the life teachings of the Buddha and the mindfulness practices of Zen, revealing how they can help us dramatically expand our possibilities for wholehearted work, life, and play.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game of Zen podcast. My name is Scott Berman, checking in from Philadelphia. And as always, I'm here with my good friend Paul from Boulder. Paul, what's up? It's been a while. How you doing?
Hey, Scott. Yeah, it has been a while. Good to be back here in the studio with you. Things are going good. Early days of summer here in Boulder. It's really beautiful, and the world's going crazy as it tends to do. But we got to keep our spirits light and, keep connection with the people we love, right?
I think it's so true. When things get kooky out there in the world, which they are all the time, and the heat is also ridiculous and everything like that, I find that coming back to this training and meditation and mindfulness and Zen, the more things are chaotic out there, the more I want to keep things calm inside. That's why I really appreciate doing this with you.
Yeah, likewise. Me too.
Cool. So welcome back, listeners. It's been a while, and Paul and I have decided to change our format a little bit. We're going to have some shorter episodes, and we're also going to highlight a lot of the work that Paul is doing with his business and his coaching practice, zenatwork.org. And Paul puts out, I just want to preface today's session by saying that you got to subscribe to the newsletter. Please do it. Paul has some great insights in these newsletters. And what I really appreciate about it is sometimes people get maybe intimidated or confused by Zen and Buddhism. And the thing that you do so well, Paul, is you bring topics to the present and you make them relatable and you make them simple and you make it easy for the reader to apply them to your life. And so I really appreciate how you do that.
I appreciate that, Scott. And that's really my passion is to bring these teachings and practices that I've been, immersed in for 35 years and to make them really relevant in the world of modern work and life. And it's quite a rich place because, as we'll talk about a little bit more this episode, these forms are always changing. They're available, if you can find them. But then once you find them, they're kind of adapted to the culture in which you find themselves in. And so that's my project, is to help adapt that. I will mention my newsletter, which you generously plugged right there. I'm expanding it to be a larger container for a lot of my programs and materials and teachings and media and content. So I'll be rolling out a more expanded platform in the next few weeks. We're recording this at the end of June. So I definitely welcome people to connect there.
I also appreciate how you are constantly updating your offerings. You always have something new and interesting that's going on, and we're going to talk about one in a second here. I also like how the fact that what you teach in these newsletters and in your coaching, it's applicable to so many different areas of life. This is not just about your work and your career. It could be about your personal life. It could be about your family life, etc. And so the lessons that we learn from this can apply in many different situations. And I think that's what makes it so valuable as well.
Yeah, very good.
Cool. All right. So today we are going to talk about Body Sangha, which I think your newsletter came out last week. And it's a new thing that you're working on. And why don't you just start from the top and tell us how this came about and what it's going on there?
Yeah. So let's see. I guess the broader picture is that, practicing Dharma practices, meditative practices, and putting the teachings of Buddhism and Zen into practice in your life, off the cushion as well as on the cushion. It really has to be done in community with other people. There are traditions of like sitting and meditating solo and, maybe having certain breakthrough experiences and realizing something deep about the universe or about yourself, and those things certainly happen. But those are actually kind of not valued so much in the Zen tradition. It's the only reason to spend time meditating is order to live fully in the world with other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the whole purpose of it. So um, it just happens to be the form through which we can go really deep into ourselves and we can access our deepest levels of heart and consciousness is through this meditation. But it's meant to be a collective activity. Zen especially is always we really sit together in community. So I have, the centers that I've been a part of, the sanghas that I've been a part of for 35 years, and then the sangha that I founded and that I currently lead now is a formal Zen sangha based in Boulder, but we also have people all over the country who participate to one degree or another. So over the last few years, I've one of the doorways, into my work is through Zen at Work, which is typically people who aren't necessarily looking for Zen practice as much as they're looking for an applied practice of Buddhism, in their work or personal lives. So that's who I work with primarily as a coach and life coach and professional coach and executive leadership coach. And I've always welcomed those people into my Eon Zen Center, my formal Zen Center, to practice. And there's a lot of resources there and there's a lot of opportunities to practice. But I've only had a few people kind of take me up on that over the years. And I understand the reason for that is that, well, they don't necessarily want a formal, Dharma study and a formal, super formal Zen practice. Scott, I will say you're like one of the exceptions who actually came to me through my coaching offering on LinkedIn. We're going, what, 5 years ago now?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think
think
so.
it's 5 years ago. But you were like on fire about the Dharma. You've always wanted it to be a formal, study.
Yeah.
So, but you're actually an exception. Most of the people come in not looking for that, and I I love that. I mean, actually, because I've got the Zen Center for people who are looking for the formal study, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who are looking more for the practice to be more of a support. So that's one constituency for this new platform that I've created together with my senior Zen students. Actually, I'll just say what that is. So it's an online platform for people to connect and come together. They can get um, basic teachings about how to meditate, basic teachings about Buddhism and Zen and principles, in effect to live by, and then a community with a lot of practice opportunities through the day, every day. And our intention was for this to be a online first community, right? With a lot of meditation centers, around the world right now, they're place based, right? And so some of them do offer online offerings, but those tend to be kind of second class citizens, for the practice. So there's things that they miss, and they aren't really connected in the energy. And I have virtual offerings in my Eon Zen Center, so I understand that that's how it goes. But I have this instinct, and I should say this is an experiment in Sangha, so we're going to see how it goes. But my instinct was that if we had a community that was online first, where everything was about bringing alive a home practice because everybody's in their own home, and is there a way that we could really support that, but also support the connection and
Mhm.
the leadership that is available, online over the screen. So to develop intention and practices and tools of the platform, features of the platform, if you will,
Mhm.
that really support that.
Yeah.
So that's the venture, and my question, is this meaningful and helpful for people? And with that, those my Zen at Work uh, constituency, if you will, being one of the potential constituencies into this one body sangha, but there being, I think, many others as well, just people who want to get into a practice but don't have something nearby and would like a supportive community. So we're really excited to launch it. I enlisted two of my senior students in putting this together back in January, expecting that they would come up with something fairly simple and basic, and they actually blew my mind with what they came up with.
Yeah.
They're both women. They're really great, amazing, talented artists, and they've both been practicing meditation for several decades. So they're very seasoned. And what they created in terms of this online community platform is just amazing. It's wonderful, it's beautiful, and it's really supportive. So we've launched it just a few weeks ago, and everything is free or for donation if you'd like to provide a donation. And we're just gonna, see how we can serve.
So I took a look at it, and first of all, they did a great job. Those two folks on your team. The UI is excellent, and there's so much content. I actually bookmarked it because I had to go back, and there's so many classes and there's so many events on the calendar, which is really good too. So there seems to be a lot of content. And what I also think is really great is if you don't, my personal practice is done almost all in my home or over there at the park or whatever. I don't have I live in Philadelphia. It's not exactly like Boulder, Colorado. I'm sure there's some cool places around here, but it's not, it's not the same in terms of I can't really go around the corner and meet up a bunch of people like you around these parts. So the idea that I can connect with people online and create this online Sangha thing is very appealing to me because I kind of want to be with other people and I want to learn from other people and practice with other people. And I don't get the opportunity to do it. So that's why this is really intriguing for me as well.
That's great. Yeah, that's one of the use cases, if you will, for people like you who perhaps don't have that culture immediately available to you to really connect with.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I know in your newsletter, you talked about the origins of Zen and some stories about the Buddha. And then I know that the Buddha talked a lot about the Sangha. And so, in the beginning, when he was teaching, he really emphasized this. So how did that kind of develop back in the day? And it's still very relevant now.
Yeah, well, it's evolved. It very much has evolved, and I'll start by saying, Sangha is one of what we call the three treasures. I think we might have done an episode on the three treasures. So in our, Buddhist parlance, the three treasures are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So you could say that's practice, that's teachings, and that's community.
Mm-hmm.
Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, practice, teachings, and community. And we say that community is the most precious, actually, because it's the harmony of the practice and the teachings, right? It's like doing the meditation practice and then putting that into practice in life, right? So you understand the wisdom of the teachings, and that harmonizes by living with people
Yeah.
and living this human life together with people. So from the beginning, it's been understood that way. But that back in the Buddha's day, it was understood in a very formal way because it's a very traditional society, obviously, going back to 500 BC in northern India, right? And the Buddha was actually had to be persuaded to allow women into the Sangha in the early days. He thought,
Yeah.
that if you allowed women in, that there would be so much interest from adults who were looking for a deep spiritual community. They would come together, in the Sangha, and that society would break down. Because people wouldn't continue to have kids. They would all be home leavers. Right. They would no longer, manage society. Now, there may have been some misogyny in there too. I don't want to let him totally off the hook, but that's kind of what he said. But eventually, he actually was persuaded by his seniors. He said, we really need to allow, women in. So he did. And but it was then, even after that, it was a very formal kind of thing, right, to have a formal Sangha. So it's always been important, really important, like essential.
Yeah.
Sangha is essential. But it's had probably, more or less formal structures in the centuries since then, to the point now we're continuing to evolve. Well, what does a Sangha even mean? What does it look like? So, looking ahead, we could, Thich Nhat Hanh, who many people know, famous Vietnamese Zen master who passed away recently, he said that the Buddha of the future, which we have a name for that, it's called Maitreya Buddha. Buddha of the future is not going to be a person; it's going to be a community.
Yeah, love
which is
that.
kind of a mind-blowing
Yep.
concept. It's really remarkable to just let that land in your heart. Wow, because you were raised Jewish, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
There's some messianicness to both of those, and it's like the rapture and the second coming and all of that. We sometimes have a sense of a salvific kind of salvational, redemptive kind of looking forward. And this is like, don't look for that at all. Actually look to what we can create as a community. So I love that from Thich Nhat Hanh. But where
Yeah.
are we now? Where are we now is just we're finding a way to be adaptive in this time and place with ways to develop Sangha, develop community. And online and remote, practice is a part of that because that's the way of the world. So how do we do it?
I always like when you bring up Thich Nhat Hanh, of course. And one of the things that I love reading his books and studying him because he did sort of modernize. I remember when I first got into all this, I was reading about the ancient, the Buddha in the beginning. And then I started reading Thich Nhat Hanh, and he somehow made it like a lot more understandable and current. And what the world looks like today, because it is a different world than when the Buddha came up. But the teachings are still there, but it's changed. And how do we apply it to our modern day world? I mean, think about what we're doing right now. We're in two different cities. We're talking over a computer about Zen and Buddhism. You know what I mean? Back in those days, they couldn't even write it down. It was just verbally committed to each other. So it's changed, but the core teachings are still the same.
Exactly, they are, and the immediacy that we can gain from coming together so quickly
Yeah.
and pleasantly with each other is wonderful. But of course, we're mediated by the technology.
Yeah.
So it is a balance. But touching, appreciating Thich Nhat Hanh as you just did, I'll bring out another, dimension, I think, of what is needed and what I'm trying to meet with the One Body Sangha is that, these days are so fucked up. I mean, there's so much. We might have to bleep that if we're going to put it on YouTube.
It's all good.
So much chaos, in the world right now. And we're recording this, a week after bombings in Iran, less than a week after bombings in Iran and wars in the Middle East and Ukraine. So we all know, that condition to be the case. Great chaos, great strife, a lot of violence. Going back to the golden age of Zen, and I referenced this in my last newsletter, and you mentioned it before our recording. So just to appreciate it, what's called the golden age of Zen, which is when Zen really came into its own as a practice, as a philosophy, was from 600 to 900 AD in China. It was born out of the combination of Buddhism from India and then native Chinese Taoism. And those two kind of strains of practice and experience mingled to produce Zen Buddhism. That time in China was incredibly volatile. There were internal strife, there were warlords, there were emperors being overthrown, there were invasions of the capital, there was widespread, violence and I presume famine and extreme social unrest, murder, rampant. 300 years of this, not continuously, but periods of like extreme such like that. I mean, really, you would have to say exceeding what we're experiencing right now, considering kind of how local the world is, right? It's like when your village is torched, it's like your world was torched. That was the golden age of Zen. So in these days, and Thich Nhat Hanh comes out of war, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Vietnam War, his practice, his teaching is infused with the reality of, the most horrific level of violence we can perpetrate, nowadays. So for him to then say, the Buddha of the future is a community,
Yeah.
we really need to come together in communities of care, in communities of practice, in communities of wisdom and compassion, not to learn from on high what these things mean,
Yeah.
but to learn together what
Yes.
these things mean and to practice them.
I think there would be a lot of the conflicts in the world would be if people would just listen to this a little bit more. I'm not saying it would solve every world problem, but I wanted to actually read a really good quote from your newsletter about chaos. For this is from Paul. For me, our chaotic social times are a call to get real and develop my internal capacity for being present and meeting the world with wisdom and compassion. I love that. It's a time to lean into love, light, and law and explore a re-enchanted world as an empowered soul. That's a beautiful paragraph. Can you explain that, please?
Now, do I have to say more?
Yes, that was so good. How'd you come up with that? I love it.
Yeah, that kind of rolled off my pen. Yeah, these chaotic times, call forth our deepest capacities, and wisdom and compassion are kind of the two. We say the two edges of Manjushri's sword. Manjushri is the bodhisattva of wisdom, and it's a very potent archetype for me right now. I run a men's group and I call it the Manjushri group.
Mm.
It's about bringing wisdom and compassion alive. But wisdom and compassion are actually different things. Wisdom is clear seeing. It's understanding the nature of the self and the nature of reality, seeing clearly where the poisons are acting, where things are being lies are happening, are being perpetrated, where people are operating in a self-centered way, where I'm operating in a self-centered way, right? That's the clear seeing part, which is wisdom. The compassion is the activity, it's the action, it's the feeling. And the activity comes from the feeling. So, where I'm feeling sad or upset or lonely or scared, I want to acknowledge all of those feelings and then act from there, right? And
Mhm.
that also means from where I love and where I care and where I desire others to thrive, right? From my own inspiration, from my own creativity, to tap into that dimension. And then what am I called to do in the world from that place? That's
Mhm.
compassionate action. So
That's awesome.
that's the basis of Buddhism, is to kind of bring that alive and then function from that place. So when I say love, light, and law, those are actually very, very specific, meaningful things. And I resonated with it. Was actually a teacher, Carolyn Mace is her name, and she put out a series a few days ago that resonated with me. And she actually used a version of that phrase, and it clicked for me. And I kind of modified it, but I'll say what that means to me. Love, light, and law. So love is the compassion, light is the wisdom, and then law is the recognition that we all live within karmic conditions.
Mhm.
The law is the karmic conditions, you could say, within which we are operating, but it's also the Dharma. And one of the translations, the word Dharma is actually law. So the Dharma is, you could say, how things work. Right? What happens when we feed our attachments? What sort of suffering is created? What happens when we release ourselves from attachments? What sort of wisdom and thriving comes from that? That's the Dharma, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of the deep law of the universe and how it's working, how I'm working, how myself is related to the so-called external world, to the cosmos. That's all Dharma. So we have wisdom, we have compassion, and we have Dharma, and those are the
That's awesome.
most important things.
Love it. Awesome. So I'm going to actually talk more about what you can get. And the website, by the way, is onebodysangha.org. And remember, Sangha is Sangha. So check it out. And I want to talk about what you're offering there, and you can go into a little more detail. So basically, daily meditation, retreats, and practice discussions, Dharma dialogues, classes, workshops, and self-paced courses, and then Sangha gatherings, practice groups, and a resource library. So that sounds like a lot of good stuff.
It's a lot of good stuff, and it's all real kind of basic and simple. It's not meant to be overwhelming or intimidating. The primary emphasis was to offer a lot of practice opportunities, and some of them are just 15 minutes, and they're throughout the day to support people in different time zones. That's one of the things that place-based, centers, if they want to reach more people, their time zone, the times they're doing their practices don't always work. So we've got things across the day. And right from the beginning, I think we had people in 5 time zones, like in our first week. And I know we have, several international people who are coming in,
Right.
in these early phases. So a lot of practice opportunities, short sessions, 15, 20, 30 minutes, as is the
Mhm.
case for you. There's a lot of introductory material out there that you can jump in. We do 2 online interactive sessions a month. One, the first Saturday of the month, which is led by the practice leaders, Sokyo and Gakyo, and they offer some basic practice instruction, and we'll do some Q&A. And then the second Saturday of each month, I come in with a Dharma dialogue with somebody, and
Nice.
we try to make those fun, and we'll take questions from the audience. I don't really prepare for those. It's just kind of an AMA sort of thing. Try to keep it light and funny.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of resources on there too. And I should say we also do have some integration in with the Eon Zen practices if you want to connect in with what we're doing there. And also some opportunity to meet with practice leaders, including my Dharma holder, Jeff Schoen O'Keefe, for some one-on-one consultation, if you'd like that.
I think it's really cool to even be connecting with people other places in the world that you would not normally meet, and you get to just experience this with them, and they're like-minded. I know I've met some of your students in the past, and we've developed friendships, and it's just, like-minded people that are interested in practicing the way that we are, and that's kind of I guess the idea behind the Sangha.
Yeah, exactly. We have this thing called the Sangha Tea House. I don't know if you saw that, but it's a whole area for people to come in. And I think they've implemented a chat system where people can actually talk to each other on the side or to the group. Those are some evolving features to keep it really informal, for informal connection.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to read one more thing from you because I love it. The One Body Sangha is a refuge for awakening and connection, a supportive online community where you can come together with others on a path of transformation from anywhere in the world. So I think that kind of sums it up really well.
Me too. Yeah,
Cool.
come join, check it out. It's an experiment.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Paul?
Oh boy, I think I just want to say what amazing times we're living in right now, Scott. It's
Yeah.
just more and more every day. It just seems like so many dysfunctions are just coming to the surface, but so much potential to
Yeah.
kind of throw all the old scripts away and just connect on what works and where our hearts are drawn, to connect with our interests and the people that we have affinities with. So I just feel a great excitement about the possibilities these
Yeah.
days. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I hope others do too.
I certainly agree with you. And I also feel like the more that I've always felt this way, the more that I talk to you and the more I practice and the more I read, it builds on itself. And I can just see, like, spending more time online with other people. It helps me deal with, good and bad times, right? Everything is changing and there's nothing is permanent. But the more that you apply these teachings to
Mhm.
your own life, the happier you can be on a day to day, even if things are kooky outside.
Exactly. Scott, I would suggest to people they entertain just a thought experiment of throwing away their script for what the rest of their life is going to look like. Just bring it to mind and just say, what if that is completely irrelevant?
Right.
What if I start from right now? What do I want to do with my life?
That's great.
It's the perfect time to do this.
That's really great. And I know that Thich Nhat Hanh would always say, every morning you wake up, you have another 24 hours and it's going to be different from yesterday and tomorrow. And that's all you have is the present moment. So
Yeah.
how can we make the present moment better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So once again, zenatwork.org for Paul's coaching newsletter. Please sign up there. And
Actually, Scott, the newsletter is at zenatwork.substack.com, I think. And then zenatwork.org is the main site, and you can get from one to the other. But
I forgot about Substack. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then onebodysangha.org. Sign up and check it out. And I think you'll really enjoy it. Or you contact Paul for coaching and all sorts of other great stuff. So thank you, everybody. Paul, this was great to get back in touch. And we'll be doing more episodes soon.
Great to see you, Scott. This was fun.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration into Zen Buddhism and its transformative influence on work and life. We hope you'll subscribe, share, and comment wherever you get your podcasts. May your journey be one of continuous growth and mindful living. From all of us here at Game of Zen, wishing you peace and prosperity on your path ahead.